Essential items for plucking is a hair clip, definitely. Then you'll need a tweezer and comb. You'll need pins. You'll need a light holding spray, other than got to be. You'll definitely need a wax stick, and for sure you'll need a hot comb. Now we get into plucking. First, you'll go ahead and pin your closure on your mannequin head, like so. I typically only use two. I'll use one for the front, one for the back. Normally it doesn't slide out of place. Sometimes it will, you can always just readjust. Then I'll go ahead and take my hot comb and I'll flatten the front. This allows you to go ahead and see exactly where you're going to pluck. Now we're going to go at least an inch back and start plucking from that point. I normally try to stick to that much space for a more natural, realistic look. Doing it a little too close, you can't really get a nice effect or a nice outcome that you're trying to go for. So here I'm going to go ahead and flat iron that first layer back, and then we're going to begin to pluck. Always the slanted side down. You leave the pointy ends away from your net, or lace rather. You don't want to poke a hole into it or rip a hole into it. So now I'm just plucking. When you're plucking, you're going to basically, I call it breaking up the hairline. You don't want a full dark hairline. You want to pluck spaces into it. Don't be scared. And you just want to shy the hairline. Continue to flat iron, or hot comb in between. Spray, light spray in between so you can see what you're doing. So here I'm hot combing so I can see where I need to make changes or where I need to pluck out of. So I think the hairline's good enough right there. Then we're going to go ahead and slice. You don't want your partings to be too big because then you're going to miss spaces and then you'll have those bulky parts in between. So you're going to go ahead, small slice. Now I'm using my wax stick to go ahead and lay. Both of them, the wax stick and the light spray, does the same thing. It's just going to help you to smooth out the hair so you can see exactly what you're doing. So here I'm going to start plucking. For some reason I always start off center and work my way to the left. So I'm just plucking. Remember, we're going to break up the hairline. We don't want a full hairline. We want an uneven hairline, and you don't want to pluck all the way across. So if you take a good look, you don't want to see squared spaces. You want to see triangular spaces, if that makes sense. So I'll show you here. There to the right is full. You see squares. There to the left is already plucked and shy. You see triangles, or points rather. So here we're just going to go in. And sometimes you can pluck a little bit deeper in some areas just for a more realistic look. Don't worry about baldness because we're back into the hairline. So the only thing that's going to do is help it with a more natural look. So there you are. We're breaking up the hairline. We're not going to leave any full squared spaces, any dark, bulky areas. Remember, use your hot comb so therefore you can see exactly what you're doing. As you can see, I'm slicing thin parts, not heavy at all, thin parts. Using the wax stick again, I'm going to go over with the hot comb. Just press all that out, lay all of that out so you can see exactly what you're doing. Then I'm going to continue plucking. You see the heaviness there? I'm going to pluck and pluck. Some laces, the knots are so dark, the knots are so full and so heavy, You really have to go in there and just pluck. Really take them out. Sometimes we're thinking that we're over plucking, but sometimes a lot of those are really full. So as you can see, a slight difference already. To my left corner, you see a square. We're going to break up that hairline. And you're really pulling from the top part of your slice. You're not going to really go too deep back in because we already came from the back. You're pulling exactly from the line or row. When you at some areas, you can go a little deeper. Typically, I don't over pluck the middle area because when you part, you want a full part. You don't want baldness or spaces. So there we are, we're plucking. Now I'm readjusting the pin just so it's nice and tight. Any looseness will cause it to shift. So that's it, we're just gonna pluck. That area there is a little bit heavier. So although I'm plucking and it is coming out, it's still very thick. You can see the bulkiness because it's still very dark. So see, we have a space there. Just gonna go back in, continue to pluck. You cannot be afraid to pluck, especially when you're in the back. That's no issue. But every slice that you make basically has to be perfection. You want the first slice to be just as good as the last slice that what you're going to see in the front. So we're just slicing. There we are. So we have more like triangular pieces or pointy pieces. So it looks more so like a natural hairline already. As you can see in the front, we still have some ways to go. We're gonna slice again. Adjust our pin because we don't want the closure to shift. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and smooth that out with the hot comb. Smooth it out really good so you can see exactly what you're doing. So there you see a completely full hairline. So we're just gonna continue to pluck. You're just gonna pluck. So go ahead. You can see the difference already. It's just amazing. Like once you learn this, get the technique down packed. Like you can literally do these with your eyes closed. So I'm just gonna go ahead and continue plucking. As you can see, the hairline is very full at the front still. And again, you're not gonna be too safe, or you're not gonna play it too safe rather. For some reason the knots were a little bit more stubborn in the front, so we're just gonna pluck, pull. We don't want it to be even. When I first started plucking, I used to just go straight across in a line and just pluck evenly because I didn't want to over pluck or create a bald spot. But as you learn or perfect the technique, you'll see, your eyes will catch exactly where you want to pluck more into. So you don't want it to be even at all. You don't want it to be heavy. And as you can see, there's still little square spaces. Right there in the middle, there's a heavy area. We're just gonna pluck. And even so, for that line, I had to really dig deep in there and pull even the bleach knots to create a space. You want little spaces. But again, you want it to be uneven, more like a natural look, because nobody's hairline is super perfect like that. So we're just gonna go in, continue to pluck just a little more. As you can see, I'm just making little spaces or wider spaces. And if you really zoom in a little bit, you can see the dots still, just a bit. Some of those you can pluck out. So now I'm gonna slice, and this is our second to last slice here, or our last slice before we get to our hairline. So then we're gonna go ahead, comb that in, smooth it out with our hot comb if needed. Then we're just gonna go ahead and pluck. So you'll do the same steps that you've done up until this point. And you just want a nice uneven hairline. Nothing's gonna be uniform. If it's uniform, it's gonna look unnatural. So unevenness creates a more natural look because nothing's uniform. So then you'll see everything just fall into place. Some people, they only pluck the front of the closure or frontal, and you don't really have like that natural look because it still looks very, very heavy. So as you can see here, I'm just smoothing out with my hot comb so I can see exactly where I need to pluck. And some people may say that looks good, which it does, but I'm definitely a perfectionist. So I'm gonna smooth over it 1,000 times just to make sure that I'm satisfied with the hairline. So you can do your little touches here and there, nothing major. It's pretty much already plucked. You just want to touch it up a bit. Okay, and now for the finale. We're gonna smooth back our last slice. And as you can see, the knots, they're in a line, a complete line, which makes the unit or the closure just look too perfect. So now we're gonna break up the hairline. Here, I'm literally plucking the entire first row. I'm just gonna go all the way across because I want to remove those knots. So I'm just gonna go entirely across. And then here's my little trick I'll show you guys in a second. Just gonna pluck, and then a nice natural hairline trick. Okay, so here we go. Nice natural hairline trick. We're gonna hot comb that back. Okay, it looks great, not gonna lie, but just to add a little touch to it, put your fingers, 3 fingers, like in a W shape. So those spaces in between your fingers, that's where you're gonna pluck from. Okay, not too much, not too far back, just a bit. You just want a nice natural look, and they don't even have to be even. So there, I'm touching up the front just a bit so we can kind of do like a little widow's peak type look, but not necessarily too much. Okay, so there we are. Just taking out little bulky pieces, little square pieces, just plucking back a little. And there we are.